Mark, hello, good morning.
Well, and a fine good morning to you. You know, every time I switch on the news, there's this Madlanga commission.
Right.
People talking away and interviewing each other. And it sort of reminds me of the time we had to spend watching the Zondo Commission. Okay. And
Yes,
uh,
yes.
and we watched intensely thinking this is the point of discovery. This is where it all
Right.
comes together. And this is where and then laboriously, they prepared this tomb, which they handed to the president. And since
Right.
then, how can I summarize? Nothing. Okay. And
Oh, is that your
and
summary?
so,
Is that how you
yeah,
summarize it?
yeah, yeah. And so since then, nothing. Now,
Okay.
I sit and watch this thing, and you can't find anything else on the news. And then you go like, okay, so this is gonna now go on for a while. It's gonna have a middle, a
Right.
beginning, and
Right.
maybe an end, but never a
Yes.
conclusion. Okay.
Well,
So what do we do,
I
Tim?
guess
What do we do?
I've got a. Okay, I actually have a question for you because, in fact,
Okay.
we are not dealing with nothing. There is a something here,
Oh yeah.
and the something will become apparent from this next question, which I'm about to ask you, which
Yeah, I
is
can't wait.
when you,
Yeah.
yeah, when you make an enormous amount of money, obviously
Yeah.
the first thing you do is you go out and buy a Lambo, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah. Every
yeah,
family
okay.
should have one. Yeah.
Everyone should, yeah, no, exactly. But once you've got a Lamborghini, what is the
Mm.
next thing you do? Because
Park
it
it in
just
the garage.
okay, no.
Because
What you
no,
do
no, Tim,
is
you don't want to
yeah.
drive a Lambo out on our roads. Don't be ridiculous. Okay.
Oh no,
You
this is
just
true.
want to own one. Okay. It's like instead of buying art, okay, you buy mobile art or something. You know what?
Right.
I'm going to carry on with your line of questioning because I've got a
Okay.
subsequent. Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, after you've got your first Lambo and now it's
Yeah.
parked in the garage, obviously
Yeah.
what you do then is you go out and buy another one, right? So that you've
Just
got
in
two
case,
Lambos,
Tim.
just in
Just
case.
in
Yeah, yeah.
case.
Because the roads are bad.
And the
So
battery charger doesn't work, and
I
then
know,
because
I
it's
know.
connected to the heated pool. Come on, man, you
Right.
got to have backup.
Okay.
Backup.
Right. So now you've got two Lambos, right? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
put them both in the garage.
Yeah.
So now what do? Obviously, you go out and you buy a third Lambo.
Or maybe a Rolls, just from a
Yeah,
diversified
diversification
portfolio
point of view. Yeah,
perspective.
yeah,
You
yes,
can
yes,
buy a
yeah,
Rolls. But
yeah.
now, yes, but I'm jumping ahead of the game to suggest
Okay.
that you've run out of garages. Yeah. So at some
Yes,
point,
yes.
right?
Right. No. This is the weird thing. This is what I don't understand about all of this. I mean, there's lots not to understand, right? But one of the things that I don't understand is why once you've bought your first Lambo, you need to go out and buy a second Lambo, exactly the same one. You know what I mean?
I
Exactly the
I
same model.
understand. I understand completely.
Oh, do you? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
explain.
The ill-gotten gains and
Right.
never satisfy. Okay.
Okay.
And
Oh,
and
okay.
and
Yeah.
if you didn't earn the money, and it wasn't obvious to those around you, your friends and your peer group and society at large, that you, as a result of your hard work and ingenuity and expertise, went and earned this fortune and so on, then you have
Right.
to somehow demonstrate it, okay,
Okay.
loudly. Now, I was
Right.
driving around Sandhurst yesterday, and I'll come back to where else I drove this weekend, which was the opposite. And there are
Right.
about 10 houses like that, okay?
Right.
And,
And we're
if I
talking, of
was
course, about
SARS,
just to fill people in case you haven't been following the news. So
yeah.
the special investigating unit went and attached a lot of property, and the property was of Shangwanli Mamela, and what they found there was a Rolls Royce, a couple of Bentleys, and these three Lamborghinis. So
six
obviously
six
now they
million rands worth of cars. And
yeah yeah
and
yeah
and,
yeah.
and yeah. And so if I
So
was looking out for these people that have got this need to show off, because the real wealthy and those who
yes
earned it kind of
yes
shut up about it, okay? They kind of
yes
understate everything. All right. Okay,
yes.
whereas the what
They would buy a Maserati maybe. I mean they
well,
wouldn't.
whatever they bought, it wouldn't be for show. It would be because they loved it. It wouldn't be on
Uh,
purpose. It wouldn't have a second agenda. Okay, and
okay.
Why they keep buying? Because you can never have enough. Okay.
Yes.
When your input cost of capital, i.e., your earning capacity and the labor and ingenuity you put into creating wealth is zero,
Right.
okay,
Yes.
then the value of capital to you is also zero. Okay.
Oh,
And
that's
so
so
you
interesting. I think
uh,
that's a very
and
good
and
point.
so
Yeah.
and so you have to keep on showing it.
Yeah.
Okay. And the more
Yes.
you show it, you reach a turning point where people go, uh-uh, this is not real. And they do.
So it's
They look at,
self-defeating. The whole
yeah,
process is self-defeating, you're
the
talking.
whole thing eats you up
Right.
like a big monster. Okay.
Right.
I gave a talk about this when I was at the post office about corruption. We never had corruption there after that. And
Right.
it was about how this won't appease you. And
Right.
eventually people see you for what you are, and the respect turns into disgust. Okay.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then you can buy whatever you like, mate. It's game over. If you think that visible, ill-gotten gains is a shortcut to happiness, nothing could be further from the truth. Pity them,
Yes.
I say.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if you want my views on this, Tim.
No, no, I do. No, no, no. I think that's very interesting. I mean, it's different from me and you. I mean, this is a oddity because you're actually a
Yeah,
rich man and I'm actually
no, no,
very
I'm
poor.
not. Yeah,
So, I
no,
mean,
no,
I would still like to have a Rolls. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I mean, and
yeah.
I don't care
Well,
whether people are pissed or not. I would just like it.
yeah, but there's a big difference.
Okay.
If you get to a point when you can afford things, some things, okay. The
Yes.
deciding difference is whether you bought it for you or whether you bought it for someone else to see. Okay.
Right.
Now you might want a Rolls, and it might take all that you have to buy that Rolls
Yes.
because you just love it. In fact,
Yes.
your wife has to come and fetch you out of the garage at night to say, "Come to bed. Now I'm going to sleep in the Rolls," okay? Because that's how much you love the thing, okay? But eventually, these same assets that you sought to get, forgiveness from almost,
Right.
when don't give you that, you hate them,
Huh.
okay?
I
You
mean, it is,
do.
South Africa is going through.
I've been a wannabe wealthy all my life, Tim. Okay.
Oh,
I came from nowhere and I made a bit of money and I wanted to
right,
show off and I bought fabulous cars and things which I'd earned. But
right,
eventually I kind of saw through that because, at some point when you go and visit someone's house, you want them to come outside and see what you drove. And it's such a sadness. Money
right,
is a medium of exchange, for goodness sake. Wealth has so many other different measurements, and money is just one of them. It's just a medium of exchange. Leave
right,
it, and if you've got some, shut up. Okay,
right.
um, that's an
Okay,
accounting term. Yeah,
okay. I just wanted to make the kind of broader point that that this is an extraordinary period in South Africa because we once had the Zondo Commission. There are now three things happening simultaneously, which are just extraordinary, just extraordinary sets of events. The one is, of
yeah.
course, what we've been talking about now, which is the Marmello Commission. But the second one is there's just been a spat between SARS and this guy with the most incredibly appropriate name, Lucky Montana. He was
Uh,
the tall trains guy,
Well,
and then the third one is
road
inquiry
accident
taking
fund.
place into the road accident fund. Correct? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well,
Um,
there's a curious thing that emerged on the SARS case. Okay.
yes.
According to the news bits that I've read, which is that the guy offered to settle at something like 10% of the apparent debt. Okay.
Right.
SARS think he owes him 55, and he said, I'll give you five.
Right.
And they said, before we can even talk about a settlement, you have to admit guilt. That's a
Right.
fascinating principle. Okay.
Okay.
So we might settle, but only when you admit guilt to the full amount. Now,
Right.
how do you know they're gonna settle after you've admitted? Okay. And so I think, and by the way, I back SARS completely in this. Okay.
Okay.
Because they go like, listen, we're not going to settle without an admission of guilt. And a lot of cases in business do have that principle, and I object to it, particularly with things like the Competition Commission, where you can both for the sake of saving legal fees and all sorts of other things, you can say we're going to settle and
Right.
there's going to be no admission of guilt. I mean, it's fundamentally flawed there. But I think
Right.
you have to say in SARS, I agree that I owe you this and it's properly calculated and so on. Now, in the order to save a 10-year law case and all the things like that, will you take a settlement amount because I can't afford to pay you anymore or for whatever reason? But the
Right.
principle of admission of guilt, has to precede any
Right.
settlement. And I found that valid and fascinating. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just find the differential between the offered amount and the SARS's claim to be
Yeah.
just enormous, and I would like to know why that is. I'd like to know how SARS, reached this figure of
No,
55 million.
SARS didn't. Oh, that no. Well, we don't know that. That was clearly them doing their work and doing an assessment. That's not.
But just consider for a moment. So the claim is 55 million, right? So let's assume
Mm.
he's in the highest tax bracket. So this means we're talking about earnings of around about 100 million,
And your point is,
over the taxable point. Well, how do you earn $1 million as a
sorry, Tim.
as the
Sorry, sorry. I mean,
CEO of
sorry.
a state-owned company? I mean,
Well, you don't, obviously. I mean,
yes,
hello, Tim, where do you live? You must live in the bloody Karoo or something, mate.
I
I
know,
mean,
I know.
all these gazillions that have gone astray,
Yes,
they weren't earned, they weren't
right,
salaries. They were
right,
taken by some tender process or some other illegal and corrupt process. This is corruption manifest, okay? Now, it's always amazed me that we
yes,
ordinary people have to account for every cent that goes through our bank account. You have to submit
yes,
everything. One of the things I've never done is any tax planning. I've just got one bank account and there it is and help yourself. Okay. And it's
right,
made my life so much simpler. Okay. But the big oaks that steal the proper money, okay, it seems to
right.
me, how does that get through bank accounts? Because if we go
I
to the
I know.
hundreds of billions of billions, okay, that
Yes,
seem to have gone out of the system in ways questionable, then
right.
surely at some point the bank or the purveyor of funds, the settlement, the whatever, the money lord, whoever must have gone like, "Hi, this is a reportable transfer." Okay, because there
Yes,
are
yes, yes,
rules. No, but there are rules within banks that require them
yes.
to disclose these things. Okay, so they have rules and limits that would say like, "Hi, we just transferred 1.4 billion from Joe to Mary," and they go, "Isn't that quite a lot?" Okay, considering that Joe is an accountant that works for the city council, they go,
Right.
"Yeah, maybe it is." And these things become spotlighted. I don't know much of the process, but it's complicit. Okay, in the
Well,
first
that's what
instance.
this is what I want to know is who is the banker here? Somebody's working for a state-owned corporation. They earn, what, like
4
300,000,
million rand,
400,000.
2 million rand, whatever. Yeah, at the top
Exactly, and
end.
that goes through your account every month. You get the salary from say Prasa in this case, and then all of a sudden in drops 100 million rand, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
why does the bank
Well, it
why
doesn't
is the
drop
bank
into your account.
not
No, 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 no,
obliged
no, Tim. No, Tim,
to
you're
to
talking.
say we don't accept that?
Yeah,
No,
Tim.
what about
I mean, what do you mean it's in your bank account? Wake up, man. It's in some company that was formed yesterday afternoon. Okay.
right?
Which doesn't look like you at all. And it's owned by Joe Soap and his cousin, Jerry
Yes, but
Philanderer. Okay. All of these things go through, no doubt, any number of veils and filters before they get to the. But here's where you get caught. And
right,
here's the whole fallacy of theft.
right,
You can't spend it without it being noticed. Okay.
yes,
So you steal all this money and then
right,
and then
yes,
eventually you go, I'm going to build a house, man, and a proper one. Okay. And then
right.
everyone drives past your house every day and they go, I wonder whose house that is because it's a Murba house. And so you get found out. Okay. And
Right.
so that's the whole fallacy of this thing. Ill-gotten gains cannot be spent. Now, a lot of them are whistled off somewhere offshore. I've got no idea how this all happens. But I'll tell you this. The thieves do themselves an injustice by showing off, and they can't help it because
Yes.
there's no satisfaction out of ill-gotten gains. Listen to me, people. It'll never make you, even if you do someone in a small way, even if you take a little more than you deserve knowingly out of a
Right.
deal, you will not feel good about it. And eventually it'll eat you up. And so it should.
Yeah. No, precisely. I mean, that goes back to explaining the three Lamborghinis, I suppose.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to hide the money at this point. You're not trying to spend the
Well,
money. You're trying to
yeah,
put the
well,
money in a different place, just in case, because you know you're going to get caught out, right? So
well,
you're
so
trying to
far,
put it into property that you can
well, here's
that
the
might
problem.
survive the
No, Tim,
exposure
Tim, you
process.
are so naive. I'm surprised. What do you mean
Okay.
you know you're going to get caught out? You're not going to get caught out, man.
Oh, you're
Who's
not.
gone to
Okay.
jail?
Oh no, this
I
is
mean,
well. You will be exposed.
you'll be
Uh,
exposed. It's almost a badge of honor.
right.
I mean, that's the trouble. What we're dealing with here is a fundamental human psychology. Okay,
Right.
not money. We're
Right.
dealing with the need to demonstrate power or a proxy for power or wealth or a proxy for wealth in the absence of self-actualization. Okay,
All
to
right.
quote old,
Okay.
yeah.
So if that's the case, what do we do about it? I mean, what does South Africa do about this now?
Well,
I mean,
I think it started.
because
Well, I think the tide has turned. I think there was a time
right.
when those that have not sat in awe of the obvious haves.
Right.
And I think that that mood has changed. I think the have-nots, the patients that have died at Tembisa and their relations and so on, have all said, we don't admire this anymore, man. We despise it. Okay. And
Yes.
so the
Now I think
self-same
you're the one who's being naive.
probably, I don't know. And also there's this underlying cause. Where are we taking it from? And isn't it ours
Right.
anyway?
Right.
That's a dynamic which is as dangerous as any. Okay.
Yes.
And so, is it our turn? Is it all of those kinds of things require us to almost have gone through this process and gone, okay, it didn't work, guys. Okay. All we've done is substituted a previous elite for a current elite, and it's the same stuff. Now, can we stop it? Okay.
Yes.
Because if we keep doing this, there'll be nothing left to eat. There's loyalty
Right.
and politics and ideology and things which are undercurrents in some ways to this tragic set of affairs, and it is tragic, and it's not just
Yes.
us and them, and it's not just rich and poor. It's a psychology that we all have to hold hands and hug each other about. Okay,
Right.
there's I promise you, for example, I read a statistic yesterday that in 1994 we had 20 million voters, and now as people get more and more unsatisfied with what they see, they don't vote for the opposition, they stop voting because
Yes.
the loyalty to their original vote is manifest. Okay, and it has
Right.
deep roots to it. Okay, and
Yes.
so they refuse to be disloyal to those who freed them. Okay, and but
Right.
so they abstain. Now
Okay.
those abstaining people, that diminishing number of people who are entrusted with the results of a democracy, are eventually getting what we call in accounting terms hurtful. Okay, and at
Okay.
some point, and at some
A lot of
point,
accounting terms in this podcast, Mark.
yeah, no,
I
this is
just
a
have to.
yeah.
I mean, if
This
I
is,
hadn't studied accounting, I wouldn't
you
know
wouldn't know
what
what I'll
you've been
say.
talking.
No, and so this is the inevitable outcome. And so at some point it pops.
Right.
And if you look at all the revolutions around the world and the changes of government by whatever means, you you get to a point where the masses, the shareholders in the entity SA Inc. eventually vote with their hearts and minds. Okay,
Right.
because they can see the road, and we're getting there, and you almost
Okay.
want it to happen faster. In my
Right.
view, we're getting there. If I look at Joburg, I mean, just to say something I wanted to say earlier, I found myself in the west of Johannesburg for a lunch yesterday, and I thought instead of coming back to the sanctity of the green north, I would take a shortcut through Braamfontein and Hillbrow.
Right.
Tim,
Yes.
it's not like it used to be because I was brought up there. I lived in a
Right.
flat with my mom in Velma Court in Hillbrow and then in Berea on the edge of Hillbrow. It was
Okay.
gridlock. I couldn't
Right.
drive. Okay, it was a Saturday afternoon. I couldn't drive. The streets were gridlocked with people scurrying about, but it was an extraordinary juxtaposition for the leafy suburb which I was returning to. All of
Yes.
that is going to come to a head, and the sooner the better, because
Okay.
at some point, well-meaning South Africans are going to
Right.
gather and hold hands and go, are we going to preserve this, or are we going to save it? Because it needs all of it. I'm waiting for the day that we start holding hands, okay,
Okay.
and caring about this thing.
Yes. No, no,
Tim,
no, I
you
think
got me
you're.
going this morning, eh? But
I
yeah,
know, I
I
know,
was,
I know.
I mean,
There's a lot of accounting terms that we're gonna have to bleep out.
yeah, well, bleep them out for goodness sake. I mean, I must start speaking like that now. My mother would be proud if I just said "for goodness sake" instead of saying "yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like that."
the-
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, it's been an emotional and high accounting term podcast. Thank you for listening. It is an extraordinary moment in our history, but then we say that every single week, and it is every single week. So thank
Yeah.
you for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.